After the pride, after the fall, the hands of mercy open wide. After the rain, after the flood, you set your promise in the sky. The God who was and is to come has been the same for me. After all these years, you've never given up. After all these years, you're constant with your love. It amazes me. After all you've done, it amazes me. You're still running after us. After the cross, after the shame, no power of hell could ever take your perfect life, your gift of grace that testifies beyond the grave, still testifies beyond the grave. After all these years, you've never given up. After all these years, you're constant with your love. It amazes me. After all you've done, it amazes me. You're still running after us.
Might even surprise you.
We've had 50 great years. How about 50 more, if God's willing?
What was her answer?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Yes.
If you've ever, they discovered, it's funny because Pam was talking about this a little bit, about, you know, the technology thing and that kind of thing, but once you showed Corinne a DVR, it is on. I mean, she has every show. I mean, you get to her house and you want to, you know, go watch something. I mean, you have to scroll like it's Netflix because it's so long of a list. I mean, there's like 1% left that she can even tape on. It's amazing. It's a pretty funny answer.
I'm selective of what I record, though. They're all very good.
Who's most likely to get sunburned? Who's most likely to be running late for an event? Who said I love you first? Oh, he's not sure. Who's more adventurous? Who's most likely to get injured? Right now, who do you love more than anyone else? On Earth. All right, take it.
You. Question for anyone. What are you going to ask me? Just what is your fondest memory with the couple, or just anything you would like to say that has inspired you?
I got a lot to say. We were on a cruise with them. Wow.
I met her at Bible study. I met Corinne at Bible study. Just the closeness and how loving and caring they are for everybody. They're very, very precious. Very precious.
Would you guys like to add to that?
Barbara, you guys want to add on? You have your camera off now?
I don't really know them well enough, just Corinne, to really make it worthwhile. Okay. Thank you.
Be a time when you'll join hands together. And did you already put the ring on? Okay, well then wait. Good. That's good. This is what Paul says in Ephesians chapter 5. Be subject to one another in the fear of Christ. Wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord. Now, if that's all it said, it'd be a different story. But husbands have a whole lot more responsibility, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. People understand that marriage is one man and one woman who are totally and freely committed to each other as companions for life. And Jesus reminded us in that passage of Scripture that Paul quoted as well, that man shall leave his father and mother and be united with his wife in the building of a home and become one flesh. And so the love of Christ is so important. And we keep reaching for that love. And it's described in a way that is incredible in 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful, not arrogant or rude, doesn't insist on its own way, it's not irritable or resentful. Over the last 50 years, probably be a long list of all of those things that you have experienced. But what's the future going to hold? Now this is encouraging. More of the same. Life doesn't change that much. But there are these milestones, like this afternoon, that are so incredibly important to family and friends. But there are these milestones, like this afternoon, that are so incredibly important to family and friends. And so we recognize your commitment to each other and recognize your commitment to God and the perseverance that it has taken for you to live life, do life together, raise a family, experience the joys of grandkids. And you have great-grandkids? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not that we know of. Okay. They're looking, so I guess there's some expectations out there. Okay. Rich, years ago, you took this woman. I'd like for you to hold her hand. You told her you wanted her to be your partner in life. Will you continue to make that pledge to love her with a love that fails not, to watch over her in sickness and in health, to protect and comfort her in trials, and remain faithful to her as long as you live?
I definitely will.
I'd like for you to look deep into her eyes and repeat these words after me. I, Rich, joyfully acknowledge you, Corinne, as my wife and renew my commitment to you. That I expressed in our wedding vows. When we united our lives 50 years ago. I pledge to you my love and devotion. For the time that God gives us to live. And no one but Jesus shall come before you in my life. And Corinne, that's pretty incredible that you took this man 50 years ago to be your partner in life. And I'm sure there's some more stories that we'll hear this afternoon. But, one of the things I always remind people, when you said, I will, did you know what that meant? Did you know what you were getting into? Not really. We all thought we did. But marriage has to be experienced, has to be lived, and that's what you've been doing for 50 years. And so you have the hand of your partner Will you now pledge yourself to continue to love him with a love that fails not, to watch after him in sickness and in health, to protect and comfort him and encourage him in trials, and remain faithful to him as long as you both shall live?
I will.
Okay, just want to make sure we had that on record. I, Corinne,
I, Corinne,
joyfully acknowledge you, Rich,
joyfully acknowledge you, Rich,
as my husband,
as my husband,
and renew my commitment to you,
and renew my commitment to you,
that I expressed in our wedding vows
as I expressed in my wedding vows
years ago,
years ago
when we united our
when
lives.
we united our lives.
I pledge to you my love and devotion
I pledge to you my love and devotion
for the time that God gives us.
for the time God gives us.
No one but Jesus shall come before you
No one but Jesus will come before you in my life.
I'd like for you to say, I give you this ring,
I give you this ring,
wear it with love and joy.
wear it with love and joy.
I accept this ring
I accept this ring
and will wear it with love and joy.
and wear it with love and joy.
This, well, you don't have to still it, because he's going to lay one on you right now, okay? Congratulations. I don't pronounce you my wife because you already are. So that was it. God bless you.
We want to say happy 50th. Can you say happy 50th anniversary? And we love you so much. Happy birthday, according to Nicholas.
Show them your new
And we
dance
love you.
on the video camera.
All right, that's it.
Show them the dance.
All right,
Let me see the dance.
do the dance. What's your new booty dance? Can you do your booty dance?
When they were young, when things were just a little simpler maybe, or things were just a little just fun, you know, and it was good to go back down that memory lane. So I gave them a few questions to try to you know, just jog their memory a little bit about their marriage and reflect a little bit on 50 years and maybe give us some advice. So you guys can just chime in when you can, but the first question I gave them was, what memories do you have, or what sticks out from your wedding day? So whoever wants to go first, or whoever has the mic could go first.
Well, I've had a hard time thinking. You're just on a different level on your wedding day. But one thing is a funny story. My brother Ron drove me to the church in my car. And when he pulled up, now the church is right across the street from school where we went, grade school. So he parked in front of the grade school because no one parks right in front of the church. So we crossed the street. And my arms weren't broken or anything, so he drove, parked the car, got out of the car, and walked in the church. He never had to open the door for me. I was perfectly fine in opening my own doors all my life, all his life. And there I was in my wedding dress in the back seat of my car on my wedding day. And poor Ron, I mean, he just wasn't thinking about, you know. So my brother Denny rescued me. I don't know if he asked when Ron got into the church where was Corky, or or he, you know, saw me, the situation. But anyhow, he came over and helped me out. It was a funny story, I think. I was not angry with him. It was funny.
Sit in the car.
Main thing I remember about my wedding day is the beautiful bride I married. And the other thing I remembered about the wedding day is I had to work that morning. I had a job as a summer relief for the janitors, the union janitors, and you got hired to replace them for the 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation they took. And the last day I was supposed to work was the Saturday we were getting married. So unfortunately, one of the things I had to do with the boilers is I had to turn the water on and let some water into the boiler, and then I went ahead and did some of the other jobs I had to do there in the building, and I forgot that I left the water on. And it started flooding around the boiler. It started flooding all around the boiler there, and all of a sudden, I get back down there and I see that I left the water on, and I'm getting a bucket and trying to bail this water out, and I knew I didn't have much time. There was a question about whether I was going to get married that day. So anyway, I guess God had him come back early. The janitor came back that day. He showed up there where I was working, and he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here? Aren't you going to get married today?" And he said, "Don't worry about this. I'll take care of it." Yeah.
That's a pretty good story.
Memory of the 50th anniversary couple.
My fondest memory is being at their property in Illinois, and I remember chasing fireflies at night, and having afterwards grown up here in Phoenix, you don't see fireflies here, but that's one of my happiest childhood memories. Is, fireflies at Uncle Ridge.
Ditto, same thing. Absolutely.
Would you like to add any more memories?
Lots of family time with both families, playing games, board games, anytime games, just really fun times with our cousins.
Thank you.
Anyway, main thing I remember about my wedding day is the beautiful bride I married. And the other thing I remembered about the wedding day is I had to work that morning. I had a job as a summer relief for the janitors, the union janitors, and you got hired to replace them for the 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation they took. And the last day I was supposed to work was the Saturday we were getting married. So unfortunately, one of the things I had to do with the boilers is I had to turn the water on and let some water into the boiler, and then I went ahead and did some of the other jobs I had to do there in the building, and I forgot that I left the water on. And it started flooding around the boiler. It started flooding all around the boiler there, and all of a sudden I get back down there and I see that I left the water on, and I'm getting a bucket and trying to bail this water out, and I knew I didn't have much time. There was a question about whether I was going to get married that day. So anyway, I guess God had him come back early. The janitor came back that day. He showed up there where I was working, and he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here? Aren't you going to get married today?" And he said, "Don't worry about this. I'll take care of it." Yeah.
That's a pretty good story.
Keep paddling. You've done a good job so far, I'm sure, and have confidence you'll keep on doing a good job in the years God gives you ahead. Mwah.
So yes, I'm Marissa Belter. I'm the oldest and the favorite. As soon as a grandchild is born, they're there to help. This started with me 20 years ago. And it continued all the way down to our youngest, Nicholas, who is just 3 years old and he lives in Illinois. They taught us different values at a very young age. So, for example, Grandma taught me how to be tidy and make my bed. It didn't really last more than like a year. I was like 7, and she made sure to make me excited about being responsible. So every time she came over, I was sure that my bed was made because I knew I'd get a charm on my charm bracelet. So just little things like that. She finds special ways to make us, to teach us responsibility. Yes, that's a good story. St. Louis. I've never been a good driver, ever. Still am not, I'll just admit it. They were there when I got my permit. They were there when I failed the test 3 times. And they were there when I cried. And they were there when I got it. So this is another driving story. They didn't let me drive the whole trip. It's probably the best. Until we got to St. Louis, 5 o'clock on a Friday night. But we made it, and I think I did okay, right?
You did.
Great, thank you.
She needed the experience on the interstate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
My blood pressure went up.
Okay. Yes. Driving has never been my strong suit. Anyways, like I said, they make us a priority in our lives, and they're there for every single, major event. So I'm really glad 4 of the grandkids could be here to finally support you guys in something and be there for an accomplishment of yours. While in college this last semester, I took a class in gender and family communication. By far one of the best classes I ever took. It was all about how males were created for females and females were created for males, and just how perfect we are for each other. And basically there was a unit, and we talked about Ephesians 5, which is funny that that's the verse that the chapter your pastor talked about, and it talks about how wives are supposed to submit to their husbands, and husbands are supposed to submit to their wives in Christ and be the leader. And we studied these verses, and then we were asked to write about who was the best example of this in our lives, and you two immediately came to my mind. And so I wrote a whole paper, I don't have it with me, but I wrote a whole paper about their marriage. I'll have to give it to you guys soon. But in summary, in short, I think my grandfather is just a great example of what a fully dedicated husband should be to his wife. He loves her and he treasures her, and I see it all the time. And my grandmother is a great example of what a supporter should be. She's so sweet, and she always is there for him. And they're just the best example of marriage, I think, in my life, for 2 people who have kept God at the center the whole time. And I just want to say thank you for being a great example to me and the rest of the family of what a Christian marriage looks like. And I'm blessed to call you my grandparents, and we love you so much, the grandchildren, and happy 50th.
What was this now? Do you want to say something to Corinne? Or?
I just love them both. Right now, I didn't even think I was going to say anything. They're just quite a couple. I just love them both. And, right now, I wouldn't even know. You got me all like, maybe if I think about it. Yeah, I know. I couldn't think. You got anything to say? Right?
Keep it going. You're doing a good job.
Yeah. Hear what he called it?
Yeah.
Corinne and Rich, I probably have as much evidence and old secrets and stuff and stories about the 2 of you combined that most anybody here, because Corinne is my sister and Rich is my childhood great friend from 5th grade on. So it would be a challenge for most anybody else here to try to mix that much information from both of them. But I've been promised endless lunches from the 2 of them, so I'm not going to reveal anything embarrassing. And I'm sure that the rest of the speakers will do the same, even without the lunches. Thank you for asking me. I'm going to go just real quick with a little bit of like the slideshow did in 14 minutes, but not me in that many minutes. My recollections start, of course, with my sister, because Rich didn't come in until about 5th grade. So Corinne and I just obviously go back lots more years before that. We grew up in the west side of Chicago, Menard and Dickens, across from the Zenith radio factory where Dad worked, and the house that they had. And we had adventures there with pets, matches, and all kinds of, when I say matches, I'm not talking about boy-girl matches, I'm talking about matches, but that's as far as that one will go. But
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. But we moved multiple times in our childhood. We went out to North Lake, which is a western suburb of Chicago near Melrose Park, if that helps any of you that know that area. And grew up in a place that was just beginning to be developed. Lots around us were being built as we lived in our house. And one of the memories that I'll need to include is we got introduced to pizza, I think, back in North Lake in those years, and Brother Denny was the one that I recall introducing us to that food. And so we would have occasionally for birthdays pizza parties, and good old Brother Ron, the adventurer that he was, had to grab a bottle of soda and up into the ceiling, and it was, well, these are kind of acoustic ceilings, but he left his indelible mark on the ceiling of our living room with his soda pop explosion. And so on we go to other people. Oldest brother Joe, he was kind enough to come and pick us up from school a couple of times. This was a newly developed area, and so it had gravel roads. And he'd pick us up from Apostles Lutheran School, jump into the family car, and Brother Joe, being an adolescent and new driver, loved to put on a show, and off he'd go with the pedal to the metal and peel out in the gravel. And the kids from school, when Brother Joe was there to pick us up from school, they wanted to stay around for a few moments and watch the show and the takeoff. So bless his heart, another fond memory. We moved to Oak Park in the mid-50s, and Halloween times, one thing or another, and different pets came and went. And that's when Rich came along in our lives in the mid-50s, in 5th grade. Started playing sports with his brother Walter and Elroy. We'd play in the alley back behind the house. In football season it was that sport, in basketball season it was that sport, and so on and so on. And Rich and I, as we matriculated through high school, played for our respective high school teams, but we also didn't get enough of basketball, so we had to play for the church team. And it worked out that we played for the Central Avenue Baptist church team with good old dear Coach Mack. And that way we didn't get caught playing basketball out of the rules of our respective high schools, because they didn't monitor the church leagues in those days. Moved on to college, and Corinne ends up, she graduated a year before me, and she was off to working at O'Hare Airport, if I remember correctly. And I went off to college, and my dear grammar school and high school buddy starts dating my sister right behind my back. And as soon as I left home, and the rest was history. And God bless them. They've been a stalwart couple for all these years, and just wish you many, many more years. God bless you.
Thank you, Harold. Why don't you guys, I should have had you do that before, why don't you guys?
Grandma, Grandpa, you guys have been awesome. I really appreciate everything you've done, like going to all my games and just being there and supporting me, and everything you've done for my family too. And just thank you for all the games and Scrabble, and I'm just so happy to see how you guys have impacted so many lives.
I don't know that my parents are total opposites, but they're opposites in a lot of ways. And actually, I think it's been really great because they, of course, they complement each other. They, pick up where the other one, maybe isn't as strong. So I've appreciated that all my growing up years. Of course, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. Mom and Dad gave us meaningful names. Mom took great care to name each of us. The 3 girls have names that was very important to her. They each have 3 syllables for the first name. And my name, Pamela Corinne, I'm named after my mom. So Deborah Martha, she's named after my great-grandma on my dad's side. And then there's, of course, Richard John. He's a junior of my dad. And then there's Christina Allison, and she's named after my grandma on my mom's side. So meaningful names they started out with. Of course, my folks are, like I said, they're opposite but similar. They're definitely a team working together. And Dad worked, of course, to support us, and Mom stayed home the majority of the time. And Dad was off for one period, and then Mom worked, so they definitely worked together to provide for us. Oh yeah, and so of course, many of you probably know we moved a lot. So there were times when Dad went ahead and Mom was busy packing and taking care of the household. And again, with their personalities, Mom, compassionate, she can hold confidences like nobody's business, and her cheers are genuine. And Dad, provider, very strong in the financial area. Good joke teller, not that Mom doesn't tell jokes either, she sure does. And they definitely pass on poorly. Yeah, the great thing about her is she'll tell a joke and she gets to the punchline and it's gone. Yeah. But we're all laughing just because she tried so hard. And Dad is definitely the solutions-oriented salesman. And he definitely passed on everything. All of us kids are different, and it was a thing like I was talking with one of my cousins, hey, we ate whatever was on the table. But I'll just give an example of how you can have, 4 kids, and even just making sandwiches was a drama. And I wanted just mayo, Debbie wanted just mustard, Rich wanted everything, and Chrissy wanted nothing. So 4 kids, same family, all different. And then there's always the classic memories that are the staples that come up for us. So one that Mom loves to tell about me is when we lived in Minnesota. She comes, were you driving down the street when you saw me? You don't even know what the story is yet, do you? Roller skating. Were you driving?
I don't remember. I think I was.
I think she was driving by. So I'm on the street in Minnesota that is just a crazy, crazy hill. And I'm on my roller skates. And I'm coming down, and here comes Mom driving by. And she's like, was that you? Were you roller skating on that street? And then there's Debbie. Debbie's classic story that we always go back to is we're on our Uncle Denny's boat. And we're cruising around, and all of a sudden, where's Debbie? Fell off the boat. Fell off the boat, and we're circling around together. But Debbie gets 2 stories, because we go to Disneyland with our Uncle Harold, Aunt Elaine, and their kids. And so we're enjoying all these different things in Disneyland, and we're in this place called the Tiki Room. All these birds going nuts and singing songs and all this thing. So we all leave, and I guess, 11 of us? So kind of a big group. And all of a sudden we get away, and it's like, where's Debbie? Where's Debbie? Where's Debbie? She's back in the Tiki Room with all the birds. We've all moved on, but she's still there. Then there's my brother. One famous memory of him, and I think he was maybe only Nicholas's age, more or less. But I guess at one point he's over at the neighbor's house, and they have an outdoor above-ground pool, and I think it was the neighbor that found him?
Mr. Lazarus.
Mr. Lazarus found him. Up at the top of the above-ground pool, on the ladder, looking over, thinking about what he's going to do next with that above-ground pool. Couldn't swim, so good thing we found him. And then a famous story for Christy is we're giving my dad a blow dryer. Big deal, but at Christmas. But we're giving him a blow dryer. And Christy's just sitting there like she can't wait till Dad opens his blow dryer. And just as he's about to open it, it's a blow dryer! And my point with all these stories is we all have them. It's just little stories that make a family and just memories that we come back to all the time. And we do have a lot of good memories. We have a lot of fights, but we have a lot of good memories. Mom and Dad, they definitely supported us through all of us, to some level or another, we're part of sports. And with 4 kids, that's a lot of sports and sports banquets and graduations, etc., like all of you have, I'm sure. But they were definitely there for us, as much as they could be in those important moments. And I'm really appreciative of that. And then I think it's funny, with graduation, okay, so my mom asked me, what do you want for graduation? And to me, this is a funny story, because right away I said, well, I don't want luggage. That is so boring. Do not get me luggage. She's already bought my gift at that point. She already has the luggage. So, disappointment, but she didn't show it. And then the best part is I end up being, your parents sometimes know you better than you know yourself, because I end up becoming a flight attendant. Not that I use that luggage, but I also traveled the world, prior to even being with the airline, I've traveled the world many times, and basically travel was a passion of mine. So anyway, they did that right too. I'll give you credit for that. All right, and so, don't worry, I'll wrap it up here shortly. Okay, so I just want to run real quick. Many of you know we moved a lot, so I'm just going to run through the list. So my folks, hopefully I have this right, you'll correct me though, I'm sure. So my parents, when they first married, lived in an apartment in Chicago, and then they moved to Arlington Heights, Illinois, Palatine, Illinois, Burlington, Illinois, Phoenix, Arizona, Beaverton, Oregon, we were only there 3 months, Phoenix, Arizona again, some of us were excited to return real quick, Minnetonka, Minnesota, we were there 11 months, Geneva, Illinois, St. Charles, Illinois, that is the longest, 16 years, Peoria, Arizona, and now they're currently in Sun City, Arizona, for 10 years. And so, a lot of moving. So for me, that made me very outgoing and having to meet new people. But anyway, so I averaged that out. That's 4.16 years over the last 50 years. So you guys are due for a move. You have overstayed Sun City by like almost 6 years. So anyway, just putting that out there. But so of course we were raised in the era of no, oh yeah, this is for my nieces and nephews, by the way. No cell phones, no texting, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Snapchat, no Time Hop. I need glasses now, by the way. No iPad and no notebook. And you know what? They did all right. They really did all right. But here's the thing that cracks me up now, is I come back to visit them, and the two of them are who I lovingly call, we're not supposed to embarrass them, is that right? Okay, so I lovingly call them Archie and Edith sometimes. But anyway, so Archie and Edith are sitting in their easy chairs with their iPads and notebooks. And what is Mom's answer to everything? I'm gonna Google it. Which would be fine if they were on Facebook or they were willing to text us. But these are the people that don't turn on their phones, don't answer their cell phones, and yet they're gonna sit in their chairs and Google it. But anyway, I find that kind of amusing myself. Anyway, had to get that out. You know, and I do appreciate too, we did family vacations. We have a lot of memories in Maranatha, Michigan, where we vacationed. I know tradition and, you know, traditions were big for Mom to create for us and have good memories. I forgot about that story. Should I tell it? Go for it. Okay, so I didn't even think of that. We're watching the Jerry Lewis telethon, and we start bickering like crazy. You guys know Jerry Lewis telethon, or I know it's changed now, but anyway, so we're just yelling and all this, and or no, we weren't yelling, we were singing. We were singing and yelling whatever, and she's like, you guys aren't gonna have any memories. And we're like, yes,
Well,
we
that
are.
was
We're
the only
making,
time that Jerry Lewis talked.
yeah, we're like, we're making memories right now. Anyway, all right. So anyway, in wrapping up with my kind of chaotic stories here, of course our family's grown. There are spouses, there are nieces, there are nephews. It's been a real blessing. You know, my folks have stuck together. There's good times, bad times, hard times, and I do think it's a big deal. And even friends that I've told, hey, we're doing my parents' 50th. I mean, it's amazing. They're both here. They're both together. They're definitely against the odds. So I find that very much a blessing. And you know, I'm a single gal, and I'm pretty comfortable being single, but I'm also like, hey, if there's someone out there, and I ask my folks, you know, I'm like, who better to pray for me? So my folks, you know, praying for me this last year, so I appreciate that. And I know they pray for all of us. And they just, they've really showed, you know, who they are as believers, and it's not always easy. You know, of course, there's ups and downs in life, and I question God sometimes, like, why did this happen or whatever, but, you know, they definitely have given us a strong faith and a strong foundation to stand on. We haven't always, you know, made all the right choices, but they definitely gave us some really good foundation blocks, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, so that's their legacy they're leaving. And then this is just this silly fun thing. So you can open this up and then I'll describe it. So we know that Dad is really great, but this is a little greater. And it literally is a little greater. So my mom and her good friend Bart, who's sitting at the table with my sisters there, they did all kinds of showers, you know, wedding showers, baby showers through the years, just went over the top. And this was one of the things she'd always do at the showers, as well as, are you talking about the bridegroom or not really? So Chris, there's a little bride outside that's actually made of a sweeper and a dustpan. Yeah, of course I don't know what it is. But anyway, Mom would make those for all these showers too over the years too. And I just
You really owe me big time for not telling the story about how you got the name of the fish.
Treat me not to leave.
Treat me not to leave you,
Or return from following.
or return from following you.
Where you go, I will go.
Where you go, I will go.
Where you lodge, I will lodge.
Where you lodge, I will lodge.
Your people shall be my people,
Your people shall be my people,
and your God, my God.
and your God, my God.